During the early years of the Second World War, as battlefronts expanded across Europe, Africa, and later the Pacific, another kind of front took shape inside the European continent. A silent front, hidden behind concrete walls, steel gates and vast industrial complexes where the war effort was measured not in ground gained but in tons of metal shaped, in rolling belts of ammunition, in meticulously assembled engines, and in weapons, leaving the factories in an unbroken stream day and night, powered by a system of forced labor that turned human beings into replaceable parts. Of a relentless production machine. As Allied bombing intensified and industrial cities became constant targets, the leadership of the Third Reich decreed that part of this war apparatus had to be concealed, protected, and reorganized, relying on secret plants, underground facilities, and tunnels dug under mountains to ensure that the production of advanced weapons could continue even under constant attack. These decisions gave rise to a hidden industrial universe, formed by damp corridors, windowless sheds, masked hangars, and camouflaged sites, where the sounds of hammers, presses, and cranes mingled with the echo of sharp orders, the heavy march of exhausted prisoners, and the constant growl of machines that were never switched off. It is into this concealed world that the documentary invites the viewer, as if old reels of film, recovered and restored, were finally revealing what for years had remained buried beneath the surface of the war, the internal workings of the secret factories, the full process of mass-producing weapons, and the inescapable presence of forced labor that sustained this mechanism. The narration follows the camera's gaze as the image opens onto an industrial landscape of 1943. Smokestacks cut through a grey sky, railway lines converge on a fenced complex, armed guards watch the access points, and columns of men and women in worn clothing walk in silence toward the main gates. Freight cars arrive on the tracks and line up along discrete platforms, where unloading is carried out with swift, brutal efficiency. On one side, raw materials arrive: steel ingots, aluminum plates, copper coils, crates of bearings, barrels of synthetic fuel, and on the other, prisoners and deported workers identified by numbers and marked by exhaustion are driven under guard into the factory interior. Inside, the vast assembly hall is organized with strict logic, each sector dedicated to a different phase of manufacture, all interconnected by conveyor belts, internal tracks, and trolleys, forming a continuous flow that converts natural resources and human effort into growing volumes of weapons. To one side, large rolling mills flatten glowing blocks of steel into plates of carefully defined thickness, destined for fuselages, armor, or bomb casings. Elsewhere, heat treatment furnaces harden and temper bars and forgings for gun barrels. Transmission shafts, gears, and structural tubes, each piece marked with batch codes so that its origin can be traced if it fails in the field. Forced laborers push carts of semi-finished parts along fixed routes, repeating the same path countless times, feeding the next line so that no station ever stands idle. Workshops filled with lathes, milling machines, planers, and drills turn blocks and bars into precision components. Cylinders are machined to exact diameters, holes bored to tight tolerances, surfaces finished to fine standards, all checked with micrometers, gauges, and mechanical comparators. Many of the operators are prisoners with some prior technical background, now compelled to perform complex tasks under constant surveillance. These workshops supply shafts, gears, valve bodies, ammunition boxes, triggers, and countless other pieces that will later be assembled into complete weapons, from small arms to heavy guns and rocket systems. The film then descends into an underground installation, reached through a long, damp tunnel lit by hanging lamps. As the air raids increased, part of the production was transferred into galleries, excavated under mountains, carved by tens of thousands of enslaved workers brought from concentration camps and occupied territories. Here, strategic weapons are built: long-range rockets, guided bombs, components for advanced aircraft. The temperature is cool, but the air is heavy with metallic dust, oil vapors and sweat. Tracks in the floor carry parts between stations, and the cycle of day and night loses meaning. Only the changing of shifts and the unrelenting production targets mark the passage of time. The documentary follows the complete manufacture of a complex weapon, such as a long-range missile, composed of tens of thousands of individual parts. Fuselage sections, made from rolled and riveted sheet metal, arrive on wheeled cradles, showing rows of perfectly aligned rivets, hammered by pairs of workers acting in strict synchrony. Mounted on rotating supports, the fuselage grows more complex as reinforcement rings, access hatches, internal mounts, and attachment points for fuel tanks, control cables, and guidance systems are added. Prisoners, trained quickly for simple yet essential tasks, repeat the same sequence of movements hour after hour, while supervisors circulate with clipboards, recording quantities and times, monitoring output with cold statistical precision. In the propulsion areas, engines and associated equipment are assembled with both technical rigor and artisanal care. Components for rocket engines and turbojets, turbines, fuel pumps, combustion chambers, injectors, valves are laid out on benches. Skilled technicians work alongside forced laborers who pass tools, hold parts, assemble subunits, and tighten fittings under instruction. Mechanical tolerances are strict. Rotating assemblies must run with minimal vibration. Pumps must seal perfectly, and all this is verified with analog instruments and test stands, where engines are clamped down and run under controlled conditions. Their roar replaces the steady hum of production as gauges, thermometers and tachometers are watched for signs of failure. Approved engines are marked and moved to integration stations, where they are mounted into fuselages and connected to fuel lines, control linkages, and monitoring systems. The film shows the assembly of control systems and crew compartments, either in missiles or in fighter aircraft built on similar lines. Instrument panels, filled with analog gauges, altitude, airspeed, engine RPM, oil pressure, fuel level compasses, are assembled on perforated metal plates. Wiring looms are laid out and tied, circuits soldered according to detailed blueprints. The technology is entirely electromechanical. Relays, coils, resistors, and vacuum tubes form the core of communication and navigation equipment. Gyroscopes and mechanical timers are handled in isolated rooms, adjusted with tiny tools, and tested on special tables to ensure they will function properly under vibration. Many of the hands performing these fine tasks belong to forced laborers, quickly trained for repetitive, delicate work that still demands steady concentration. Weapons installation follows. Wing-mounted cannons, machine guns, rocket rails, bomb racks. Automatic weapons are assembled in series and tested in armored booths with live ammunition, their firing cycles observed through reinforced windows. Approved guns are fitted to aircraft structures using jigs to guarantee exact alignment. Small deviations could mean inaccuracy or dangerous stresses. Workers carry ammunition belts and crates to the line, keeping the flow of components steady. Quality control emerges as a crucial layer in this industrial system. Inspectors check dimensions, surfaces, and material integrity, sometimes sacrificing sample parts to examine their internal structure. Batches receive stamps of approval with dates, inspector numbers, and production codes, creating a paper trail linking each field failure back to a particular plant and process. Yet the heavy reliance on exhausted, underfed forced labor inevitably introduces strain and error. Inspection acts as a final filter between this fragile process and the battlefield. In periods of acute pressure, however, some tests are abbreviated and higher failure rates are reluctantly accepted. When a weapon system is finally complete, an aircraft, a missile, or simply large consignments of small arms, it reaches the last stages of preparation. Aircraft are towed out through huge doors into daylight, their metal skins painted in camouflage, identification markings applied, canopies fitted, weapons and fuel loaded. Mechanics perform final checks on controls, hydraulics, electrical circuits, and radios. Engines are run at increasing power, and the deep vibration fills the air around the hangar. Forced laborers, who have taken part in every stage up to this point, stand at a distance, tasked now only with clearing tools and making minor adjustments on command. Long-range missiles are transported horizontally on special wagons through tunnels to camouflaged exits, and then to test sites or operational units. Each missile carries within it not only thousands of metal parts, but the record of thousands of hours of coerced labor, compressed into a machine that will exist for only minutes in flight before ending in an explosion. The documentary maintains a neutral tone, treating this as an industrial phenomenon. Raw materials drawn from the earth, transformed into advanced alloys and precision parts, organized into highly specialized assembly lines to deliver weapons in quantity in the hope of reversing military setbacks through technology. As the war nears its end, tension rises within these secret factories. Bombings draw closer, supplies grow scarce, orders change abruptly, and designs are modified in haste. Lines are reconfigured, jigs reworked, drawings updated, and workers are pushed to adapt at high speed, increasing stress and error. Production nonetheless continues, driven by the belief that these wonder weapons might still alter the outcome if deployed in sufficient numbers. The factories thus become symbols of the war's final phase, technically advanced, highly organized, yet inseparable from systemic brutality and the exploitation of forced labor on a massive scale. In the closing sequences, the film follows Allied troops as they discover these sites. Silent tunnels, abandoned workshops, lines stopped in mid-process, unfinished fuselages, scattered parts and jigs still in place. Barracks, registration cards, and personal remnants testify to the labor force that had been hidden behind these walls. Later reports show that, in some complexes, the number of workers who died exceeded the casualties inflicted by the weapons built there, underscoring the immense human cost of this production. Finally, the documentary returns to these spaces in the present day. Empty tunnels, rusted tracks, obsolete machines, faded markings on the walls. The narration notes that these places left a lasting mark on military aviation and armaments technology. They were laboratories for high-volume production of complex systems, for the integration of research and manufacturing, and for strict standardization and quality control. At the same time, it stresses that this technical legacy cannot be separated from the system of forced labor that made it possible. Each weapon that left these hidden lines carried the weight of a monumental industrial effort, powered not only by metal and fuel, but by human lives consumed in anonymity.